Hello, and welcome to the Badger Talks podcast, the podcast that shares interviews with experts from the University of Wisconsin-Madison community about their work, research, and a little bit about what they're like as people, too. I'm your host, Buzz Kemper. Today, we're focusing on the Wisconsin Book Festival, and I'm happy to have as my guest Jane Rotonda, Director of Wisconsin Book Festival, which is taking place October 17 through 20. Jane Rotonda, thanks for doing this show. I'm really interested to find out more about the book festival.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a wonderful opportunity. I appreciate it.
I want to start out with your background. So you're new as director of the Wisconsin Book Festival, correct? Is this your second year?
This will be my second fall celebration, and yes, I'm in my second year in the role.
Okay, terrific. Yeah. And I just want to head back in the Wayback Machine because you spent, I think it was 8 years, right, at Wisconsin Public Radio, and you were working with Larry Mealer.
Yes, at Wisconsin Public Radio, I worked in a lot of different capacities, including development and fundraising, that thing that everyone loves, pledge drives.
Yes, yes. Call now.
So I did that, and then I also worked in programming, and I was the assistant director of the Ideas Network for a little while.
Okay.
And then I also worked on the Larry Mealer Show as the executive producer of that show.
Did you ever help organize the Christmas show? I asked because I am Santa.
Indeed. I wasn't sure if I was allowed to say.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm finally meeting Santa in person. And yes, I did organize that show for a few years.
Cool.
And so we corresponded that way. And yeah, I think it's exciting to finally be face to face.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And if you want a pony for Christmas, just let me know now. I'll do what I can do.
Yes, we need to get a Christmas book or a holiday book for the book festival and have you come.
Right, exactly. So now let's talk about the book festival. And one of the things that interests me, I want to cover all kinds of things about it, but I've talked to people who organize music festivals, and I've talked to people who organized like the Wisconsin Film Festival or other types of things. There's an obvious physicality to that. People go to see the movie. People go to see the concert. There's all kinds of stuff, and people don't obviously go to look at rooms full of books, or do they? How does this actually unfold?
Yes. Oh, I'm so glad you asked that question. It's fun to paint the festival picture, so I'll try to do that here. I think what's really special about the book festival and the in-person component is the community aspect. So if you think about a library, which is where we host the majority of the events, you think about it's just people coming and going freely, kind of passing into rooms, checking out books, looking, in all of the different stacks and shelves, and maybe interacting with librarians to get their help. So the book festival, in a way, is that it's that community, it's that free access to books and authors, but it's organized. So, and the organization comes from the events that we host. The 4-day celebration, which is what we call our fall celebration, is back-to-back programming of those in-person events where we have authors come into the library and other off-site venues and basically talk about their book. And what happens there is community members come, they attend for free. It's open to the public. There's no pre-registration required. So that whole idea of just kind of walking into the library to get some knowledge and check out a book is really what we're trying to emulate, but it's a little bit more organized in that you get that interaction and that conversation, and you listen to the author talk about the book. And all of our events have a audience Q&A component, so there's like time for folks to ask questions of the author and have that sort of real-time exchange, which is pretty special, especially if you are a really big fan of the author who's presenting. Mm-hmm. And then we do have, we work with 3 local independent bookstores to sell the books that we're featuring during the fall celebration on site.
And what are those stores?
Yeah, so it's A Room of One's Own, Mystery to Me,
Okay.
and Lake City Books.
Oh, terrific. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's what you see and what you get when you come to the festival. And that's like just the, the overview. But really what it is this moment where community members can come together, and in the honor, and at the heart of it, it's just really about books and conversation and authors, which I like to think of as like, a very timeless and kind of universal thing that we can all appreciate and come together to celebrate.
Okay, terrific.
Yeah.
One of the things that would occur to me, and I don't think I've ever been to an author event, although I do enjoy reading books. But one of the things that I would ask myself, and maybe this is just really arcane just to me, but should I read the book and then go to the author event, or should I go to the author event and then read the book afterward and let it kind of unfold? Is there a best practice?
So I love this question because it's totally up to you.
Okay.
Honestly, it's if you feel like you're gonna get more out of it because you've read the book and you have notes and you're really excited about talking with this author and like digging deep, then certainly like that can be the approach that you take. But what I think is so wonderful about the festival is that there isn't that barrier to entry. You don't have to have familiarity with the author or the book, because what you're going to do is have this spontaneous learning moment where you're just going to be exposed to new ideas, and then kind of have this moment where you are engaging with the book and getting a precursor to perhaps then reading the book. If it's one of those books, which we do have some mysteries and some thrillers this fall, but if it's one of those types of books where the author doesn't want to give anything away, right, they'll be conscientious of people who have not read the book.
No spoilers.
And no spoilers.
Yeah.
So I think you don't have to worry about that. And I think it's unique in the sense that it's truly meant to be for all and kind of with all in mind. And I like that we set our authors with that expectation so that it can be accessible and you don't have to have like a bunch of background information or knowledge.
There are a lot of informal book clubs that I was actually in one for a while, and a couple of the people moved away and it dissolved, but I was really bummed because I loved being able to read. And these people were mostly interested in science books. So we weren't just talking about like this character or that character. We were talking about, did you get this thing when they were talking about quantum physics and this thing happened? And oh yeah, it's this. Oh, great. So it was really, really helpful to me. Do you work with either formal or informal book clubs when you're putting this together, like getting organized with like, they're going to do something with it or be involved in some way? Yes.
So there isn't any formal Wisconsin Book Festival, like book club or any sort of organized way where we interact with book discussions or book clubs. Mm-hmm. They do show up, and it is brilliant when they do. It is just the best thing because they are those super engaged, audience members. They come maybe 30 minutes early. They get their seats, and they've all read the book and had great discussions about it. And then kind of it all culminates in this book festival, event where they really get to dig into it with the author. And the smiles, the questions that come from the book club, fans and goers of the festival are just magnificent. They're very well thought out. And you can tell that they have really sought the full experience, kind of immerse themselves. And I think that that's really just a wonderful thing to witness. But we don't have any way where we say this is a Wisconsin Book Festival book club discussion and featured event. I think there could be room for that someday. The library hosts a lot of book discussions around Go Big Read and some other book festival books because they kind of follow what we're doing and try to connect so that those book clubs can then have this experience with the author kind of in person. Okay. So it happens organically, not in any sort of official way.
Okay, cool. I kind of would assume that, but I was curious about that. Another thing I'm curious about is that people consume books so much differently. When I was a kid, there was paper, and you would read words on a piece of paper. Now we've got ebooks, and we've of course got audiobooks, and we do a lot of that kind of production here, actually. But does the fact that people consume books in different ways now, how, if in any way, how does that impact how the festival works?
That's a great question. I don't think it does.
Okay.
I think it's still
I knew that was one possible answer.
Yeah.
It makes no difference. Yeah.
I think it's still just this idea that I have spent time, I have chosen to pass some of my time engaging with this book, whether it's listening to it on my commute or perhaps it's reading it on a Kindle while I'm on vacation. And, I am able to read multiple books and I didn't want to pack, 20 pounds worth of books.
Right.
I think it's just about taking that moment that you've set aside to read and learn and kind of grow your perspective and then bringing it to a platform where you can really have a discussion about it, learn even more about the book, and kind of discover that a book is yes, it's reading or it's listening to it and it's understanding and absorbing those words, but it's also, it can have such a bigger impact and more longevity if you kind of give it the chance to do so. And I think that's part of what the festival is all about.
Okay, terrific. Are there other things besides Meet the Author events?
Yeah, so I think what we typically do, it's an author presenting, and what I really love about what we do with our events is oftentimes it's the author presenting and then moving into conversation. So much like how we're just having a conversation here, it's two people, the person, who wrote the book, and then someone who has some background knowledge or related experience with either the content or the author, and the two of them sitting down to kind of really dig in and have a meaningful, discussion about the book. Okay. And I think that also offers just a unique experience too, because it's not just the one perspective of the author presenting on the book, which is great, but it adds this dimension of, a reader of the book kind of in the mix and kind of serving as that person who is in the audience and teasing out some of those questions, which I think is very impactful and fun and tends to kind of make the hour fly by. It just is really engaging.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's our typical approach when it comes to events. And I think the other parts that are kind of in between that you might be getting at is just this moment where, say you're at a book festival event and it's at 10:30 in the morning and you go to that event and then you maybe want to go to something that's, 1 hour after, so there's one event in between that you're just going to kind of hang out and linger. And I think that's where it's so magical and interesting and fun, because maybe you just hang out and you peruse the books that our booksellers are selling, or you have a moment where you stop at our coffee cart that we have on at the third floor of the Central Library, and you grab a coffee and you kind of sit down and you just sort of look at the schedule, and someone maybe approaches you and says, hey, are you so-and-so from this? And you have these sort of wonderful moments where the two unexpected people or kind of community members are engaging in a conversation and the festival is the thing that sort of brought them together. Okay. And maybe you ride the elevator with the author, who you're going to their event next, or you walk up the stairs with them. So I think there's some spontaneity and kind of those interstitial moments that are also very unique and special and fun, and probably the most memorable for people. I hear a lot of people say, oh, it was so cool to, be in line with this author who I've read all of their books, and I got to just kind of talk to them about things that relate to their books, but also just them being a person. And, that's pretty unique.
Yeah, that is really fun.
Yeah.
And I imagine that there are opportunities not only to connect with an author of which you are already a fan, but also to discover new authors, new books. You've got, all that stuff between the events and then the 3 bookstores that are involved.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can just peruse and go crazy.
Exactly. Going crazy and it just kind of thinking outside of your usual, routine and in terms of what you read, but also kind of how you pass your weekend, because it's a full, 4 days of just very interesting events and content to take in and to be a part of.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm talking to Jane Rotonda. She's the director of the Wisconsin Book Festival, and it is October 17th through 20.
Yes.
And what is the website so that people can find out much more than we're able to cover?
Yes. Our full list of events is on wisconsinbookfestival.org.
Okay. And we spell out Wisconsin. It's not just
spelled out Wisconsin, spelled out book, spelled out festival.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
But also Google us. I think you'll find it. And take
I just
a look.
Googled it, and it came up, and your bio came up, and so that was really helpful. I just have 2 more questions. One is there anything about the festival that you think is important to mention, but perhaps I didn't ask the right question to get to?
Yeah, there are a few things, if you don't mind.
Go.
I think so. It's so exciting that we have this culmination and what you would think of as a traditional festival of this 4-day fall celebration. But the other thing that's pretty great about the festival is that we actually host standalone events all year round. So we host authors and bring in authors. We had 2 events last week, and we'll have one this upcoming week where it's just one author and one book, and it's really, really special and fun because the author is likely touring and the book is probably just recently released. And it's just this kind of different way to engage with the festival and also kind of get acquainted with what we do in our programming.
Dip a toe in.
Yeah, dip a toe. And then I think the other thing is we read all year long. And so there's no reason not to kind of recognize that and come together in spaces that are outside of that fall celebration. Cool. So I do want to mention that. I think the other thing that is so wonderful about the book festival is our partners. We work with the university. We work with the Arts and Lit Lab, community organizations that are all about either things that directly relate to books and reading, but also are just about community and kind of showcasing Madison and beyond in Wisconsin and all of the incredible learning and experiences that are available in our state. So I want to mention that it's the Wisconsin Book Festival, but it's really truly a showcase of all of the different things that our city and our state has to offer, and all of the organizations that are pulling community members together. I really want to thank our partners and also recognize that so many of our programs wouldn't be possible if we didn't share in that kind of co-hosting and collaboration.
Okay.
Again, we talked about this, but I will say it's free. It's open to the public. Right. We have some events where we actually give away free books. So it's just one of those things that you really can't lose. Just check it out and you'll find something that I think will kind of make you want to not just dip that toe in, but kind of dive on in. Hang out with us.
Full submersion. I like it. Terrific. Thank you so much. And then the final thing is, I just want to find out, when you're not either organizing this festival, these events, or have your head buried in a book, What do you do? Do you have hobbies? Do you do sports? Do you train lions? What do you do?
Oh, yeah, I got to add that to my list. I need to start training lions.
Yeah. Put that on the to-do list.
I suppose one thing I'm an avid runner. So
Okay.
I do run, and it's kind of just, for me, it's a mental and a physical thing that I just sort of do for myself that keeps me grounded. It keeps me thinking. It's time to sort of meditate on all of that reading that I'm doing.
Right.
All of the events that I'm planning, but also just life in general, and kind of taking that time and space to take care of myself. So,
Okay.
yeah.
That sounds like fun. Do you write? See, I promised that was the last question. I lied. Do you write?
Okay, so I have a background in journalism.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I've done a lot of writing in the sense of that sphere. So, news and in articles in that way. I'm not a writer in terms of just sort of putting pen to paper.
Okay.
It's just
All right.
not something that I've dove into yet. Maybe one day, but yeah.
Okay. We will not wait with bated breath for the Jane Rotunda novel series to come out.
Yeah, I probably won't be writing a memoir.
Fair enough. All right. Fair enough. Nor will I. Not that many people would want to read it.
I think that's the same for me. I'll just kind of leave it out of even the table of options.
Fair enough. Jane, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to get to one or more of these events. I do love to read, and I typically flip between fiction and nonfiction. So I'll read sciencey books, pretty
Yes.
heady sciencey books,
Yes.
and then I'll need a break. So then I'll read like a Neil Gaiman, book to get into fantasy world. It's wonderful stuff. So.
I think you're gonna, if that's the way you read, that's the way the book festival sort of presents
Okay.
its programming.
Cool.
We have fantasy on the schedule. We have, actually, I think this is a record number of STEM programs where we partner with the Science Festival to co-host. I think
Okay.
it's 15 events that we have with them, and that's very sciencey, and
Okay.
it's about environment, it's about refrigeration,
Okay.
sleep.
Okay.
So news you can use, and some really interesting stuff. And then, you can escape from it all, whether it's like a fantasy or a thriller. It's pretty
Okay.
fun.
Cool. All right. From refrigeration to sleep. That'll be your tagline.
I mean,
right?
we probably interact with both of those things on a daily basis.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
We do. Absolutely. Cool. Thanks so much.
Thank
This
you,
has been
Buzz.
fun.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a true pleasure.
You've been listening to the Badger Talks podcast. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Wisconsin Book Festival Director Jane Rotunda. Please browse our previous episodes for other topics that may be of interest to you. The Badger Talks podcast is a creation of UW Connects and produced at Audio for the Arts Recording Studios in Madison, Wisconsin. Our music is composed by Bill Purdy and performed by the UW Marching Band. I'm Buzz Kemper. Thank you for listening.